All right. Hello and welcome to our conversation with Hyun, Sook and Ryan Estrada. I'm going to be going over a little bit of housekeeping before we get fully started. So first, the webcast is going to be recorded, and you will all receive a link in an email within 24 hours of this webcast. So if you want to watch it again, or if you want to share it with your friends or your family, feel free to do so. And it will also be on Junior Library Guild's webcast page as well, so you can find it there. Next, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A box, and we will make sure we get to them by the end of the webcast. And lastly, we will be popping our resources page in the chat, and there you can learn more about Banned Books Week as well as the book Banned Book Club. And yeah, without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Susan, our editorial director, and she's going to introduce our two incredible guests.
Thank you, Katie. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited. This has been a long time in the works that we have been planning a webcast with Hyun, Sook and Ryan Estrada, and we're so excited. Banned Book Club is their book that they co-authored. So welcome to you both. It is 3:30, or now I guess it's 4 o'clock in the morning in Korea. So this is extraordinary that they are both able to join us. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about the story behind Banned Book Club for people who haven't had the chance to read it yet?
What's your book about?
The book about my university school days. When I was in, we are under the dictatorship. So many people are suffering about their freedom, and then they were interrogated by KCI. So it's very dramatic experience about that. So I told my story to Ryan. So Ryan was at the time so interested in, so he wanted to publish that book. Yeah.
Okay, so we actually have a little video that we made of Hyunsuk reading part of the book, so you can get an idea of what it is like. Let me show you that.
Hello everyone, I am Hyun-Suk, co-author of Banned Book Club with Ryan Estrada and Go Hyung-ju. It is a true story about 1980s in Korea. I will read a scene for you today. Will you shut up? Some of us want to study.
It sounds like we have a fan of live theater. How about a nice round of applause for our newest members? They too have been studying hard all week. And now, ladies and gentlemen, gather round as the Anjan University Mass Dance Team performs the 900-year-old folktale, Youngno and the Yangban. It's the story of a hero who slays a monster.
She dances so beautifully as the hero. Beautiful? Yes, but she's not the hero.
Roar! I will eat you, young man!
I am just a simple man.
Liar, I know the smell of a young man. I have eaten 99!
I will wash over the smell.
If I eat one more, I can get into heaven. And you wear the clothes of a young man.
Then I will take them home. Spare me and I will give you treasures beyond your wildest dreams.
Would you really?
I will give you anything. Gold, rubies, diamonds.
Then it is settled. Only a young man would have such riches to spare. President Chun, step down, step down. President Chun, step down, step down.
Huh? Why are they protesting during our show? They are protesters. And we might have a coordinated schedule with them.
President Chun, step down, step down.
What? Why? Activists need entertainment too. I joined this team to stay out of the politics. In times like this, no act is apolitical. Not even a monster dance? A monster who eats yangban. You do know what a yangban is, right? A politician can't get much more political than that. It's 900 years old!
And I guess we'd better protest harder because we still have all the same problems.
That entire dance was just to push people into wanting to fight politicians?
Oh no, your loud drumming was enough to get them riled up for that.
The rest is just showmanship.
Hey, sorry, we didn't mean to take you by surprise. It's just that that's why these dances were invented, to protest ancient Confucian noblemen.
I came here to study, you know? I have nothing to protest about.
I get it, you want to learn some things. It's Hyun-suk, right?
Yeah?
Hey Hyun-suk, do you like books?
Wow, that is great. Thank you for sharing that. So, Hyun-suk, can you tell us about what your life was like during that time? And how you and your friends got the courage to stand up for your beliefs? Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted.
At that time, so we were under the dictatorship in 1980s. Everything is under the controlled by the dictator. So every newspaper is censored, and then we can't organize some the clubs, and the many books banned. And my friends, the leader of the protester, they were interrogated and they were taken to the intelligence agents, and they are tortured. And yeah, some people, the leader of the protest, they were missing. So it's very terrible time at the time. So we can't meet together and some places, and yeah, it's many things is censored at the times. Yeah.
And
So
how did your parents react?
My parents is they are just living their life. So it's we are not in Seoul at the time. It's near the Seoul, near the government is a lot of protest, but in the the province is the less quiet. But always they said, okay, don't go to the protest things, and then don't join there, and you should study about that. They don't know about it. They said they criticize about the protest because at the times the people were brainwashed by the dictator. So yeah, it's the students should be always study for the test. So it's away from the protester and some thing.
I think your mom only really found out what you were doing when you told her about the book, like a few years ago. I think she knew you were involved in something, but it wasn't until the book and we started interviewing her about the book that she did. But one of the most adorable moments was after the book came out, we did another webcast for the AAPI book month, and we had it scheduled, and then Hyun-suk's mom just happened to show up at her house the day we did it, and she was sitting there watching, and she doesn't speak English, she didn't totally understand what Hyun-suk was saying, but there was a moment she just walked into the camera and told Hyun-suk she was proud of her and walked back out again. It's adorable.
That is adorable. I think one of the scariest parts of the book was when Agent Ock called your parents' restaurant and you answered the phone and arranged to meet him apart from where I managed to get him to not come to the restaurant and then arrange this meeting elsewhere. Is that how it actually happened?
Yeah, the agent, intelligent agent called me. So the bell, the phone rings. So at that time I hold the phone. So is someone okay? So he introduced himself. So my father shouldn't know that about that. So I just pretend, that is kind of my boyfriend and my friend from school. So I very friendly talked. Oh, it's what's up? Okay, it's okay. So it's my father is just away from the next to there, but he couldn't what I was saying. So it's yeah. I will go there. So I met him in the there is not a tea house, kind of not cafe. So yes, we talk. He asked about my friend. Why do you join the mask dance? He asked, right? He want to know something detail, but I didn't say. Yes, it's not exact dialogue in the book. That is more the imagination, right?
Because we don't know, we don't have a transcript, we don't know exactly what was said.
Yeah, but it's my father shouldn't know that, so just pretend it's my close friend.
Yeah, I was happy you pointed that scene out, because that's my favorite scene as well, and it's really the scene that made me fall in love with the story. Because when Spike first from Iron Circus first approached us and asked us about making a book, I had just heard so little of this story. Hyun-suk was just casually mentioned one day. Yeah, back when I was interrogated by the KCA, and I'm like, what? You never told me about this. We've been married for like 8 years. Where did this come from?
What, are you kidding? Wow.
And it wasn't because it was secret. It was just because that was her life. It wasn't to her. Everyone of her generation went through this. So it's like, like for us, the story of living through a pandemic, if you told anyone else, they'd be like, yeah, we all did that. But if you told anyone like from 4 years ago, they'd be like, oh my, you did what? So she just didn't think to mention it. And then she just casually mentioned a few details. And when Spike offered us the book, I asked her, do you think there's enough to the story we can make a whole book? She's like, I don't know. And then I kept asking her questions. And when she told me that part, I'm like, that's like so dramatic that like no one's gonna believe I didn't make it up to make the story more interesting, because that's the kind of thing you would tell in a story.
Because it's 1980s in Korea, that is just the ordinary life of the So many of my friends, they said it's the policeman and the intelligence agent that follow them, and then follow them, and then later I told to the my friends who was leader of the band book club, and he said, what? Did they called you? Oh, okay, that is very normal for me. And they called me a lot. So I met him, the agent is regularly, but but it's I'm not leader of the band book club, just just a member, youngest member at the time. But they had a a lot of experience of that kind of that. That is the ordinary life of the in Korea is as the university student, but is you never know the experience about that. So he was so shocked about that.
So how did you get the courage to do that? Or, I mean, you just had to do it, but were you scared at the time? Were you scared after? How?
Yeah, it's, I'm so, oh, what did I do? Okay, what did I do? Yeah, it's but you think it's the intelligent, the agency, you think, oh, he's very scary, person, but I met him, is very just a normal people, normal person, right? So he's not sure I'm the involved with that kind of a band club, kind of some the club for the protest. He at that time he didn't sure. He just want to know and then about get some information through the me. So he didn't make a very a scary atmosphere at that time. Just the
Okay,
process.
well,
yeah.
So you pretended
shocking.
it was all about being in love and that you didn't, and you pretended you didn't understand what he was asking.
Yep, playing dumb, that'll get you out of a situation.
Yeah.
So I would say not only is that experience depicted in a scary way, but it's also pretty funny because we know as the readers, we know that you know more than you're letting on. And so the things that you're saying about being in love or liking this boy is really funny. So how do you mix the humor about such a scary situation? How did you get that in the book?
Yeah, that was a big thing that I wanted to make sure we did, because like I mentioned, this was just everyone's lives. So we didn't want to make it feel like some apocalyptic story of a society that's all bad, because that's not what people's experience was. I wanted to show the everyday life that this politics was interrupting. So it was important to me to show that people still had a sense of humor, people still had light moments, and let people feel that it was, I think that something scary like that is scarier if it comes in a world where lightness is also possible. If you read a book that's just this bad thing happens, then something else bad happens, it's not scary. But if there's like humor cutting it, then it shows that this is a world where this doesn't need to happen. And it to me, it made it feel a little scarier.
Yeah. So I understand that the books that were banned, the list of books that were banned was always changing. So how did you know what books were banned and what books were not banned?
They don't like the book about there is no reason, just
But how did you know which ones were banned?
Were banned.
Mm-hmm.
But there is some list at the time, so, and some political things, and the book talk about the freedom, and there is
well, it was kind of ever changing, and it kind of was down to like whatever someone wanted to say was banned in order to arrest the people they wanted to arrest. There's a famous Korean movie called The Attorney, and there's this amazing scene where there are a bunch of students that were arrested for reading a book mentioned in our book, with The Logic for an Era of Transition. And in court, the lawyer went up and argued, you say these kids are arrested for reading this book. You went to this university, right? It's on the syllabus. So how come it's okay for your university to have it on the syllabus, but these kids can't read it? So there were some that everybody knew were banned, and there were some that was just like, all right, I think these kids are trouble. What are they reading? All right, let's say that's banned and we'll arrest them for it.
Mm.
And how did you get the books that were banned?
And books.
Yeah, how did your group get them?
Just okay. Some early and it's very rare. The just it's maybe behind the chef. So you just go and ask. The friend give a tip how to get to the books from some certain the bookstore, not just
Little speakeasy bookstore.
so not just
Yeah.
the bookstore on the street. So go to that bookstore and ask them, and there sometimes we can get some copies of book, not whole whole book, and give us some copies, some page, and after
Mhm.
we read that copies of book, and then give another, they print, and then give another the rest of the book like that, and after we read that book and we discuss about the book.
So it was basically just like a network of very, independent booksellers, man. They make the world go round. They just network of people who are willing to risk their lives to, like, you have a little extra secret book behind the shelf or under the counter. Somebody asks the right question, you just kind of slide it across the table.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so if you're in the bookstore asking for that book, are you looking around to see who's there?
Yeah, no one, I check the no one there, and and go to the very quiet voice and then ask them. And at this time, not just the books, some many movies and some the songs were banned too, because this movie is the encouraged commit suicide. Okay, we don't like these lyrics, so we banned the song like that. So that is the dictator. They don't want the people to know the word, right? So they through the books, many people, they think about their life, and they open their eyes about the words. They want to know words, right? So dictator, they think it's the people just ignorance of the things. So they don't just away from the political, away from the thinking. So because they can control the people, that's why they can control the people. So kind of the brainwashed, and then they control the people, and then many things.
Can you speak to the importance of being free to read what you want to read?
Yeah, anyone. Why is it important for people to read what they want to read?
Read?
Yeah. I'll say it's just, one thing we say in the book is you learn a lot about people from what they want to ban, what they think isn't, people shouldn't be reading. And now, of course, there's been a lot of things happening in the US where books are being banned, and especially with, young adult books. And one of the things that people have been saying recently is about how if you tell a kid they can't read a book because of negative experiences in it, you're telling all the kids that relate to that book and all the kids that have had those experiences that their experiences are not acceptable, their life is not acceptable. And it's, people need to read things that reflect the life that they live and the problems that they have. And whether it's things that reflect stuff they might have experienced in their life, or if it's things that they've never experienced in their life and don't know about and wouldn't know if they were in a book that was banned and they couldn't see it. So there's so much to the world that people need to know about, and by not learning it is or not having access to it, it's causing an inability to grow and change. And in our book we tried to talk about, it wasn't just books that people agree with that they weren't able to read. People also wanted to read books by other dictators. You know, one of the kids in a book was arrested by reading a Kim Il-sung book from North Korea, and it wasn't because he wanted to learn more about Kim Il-sung because he respected him. He wanted to learn about him because, you know, it sounds like a lot of the things this guy is saying are very similar to things our politicians are saying. Why is it okay if they say it and not him? So you can read something and learn from it by disagreeing with it as well.
I've switched gears a little bit. Ryan, you've been writing since you were a child. Can you tell us about your writing and illustrating career and how you became a graphic novelist?
Well, I was a cartoonist before I have memories, because it's just, my mother said it's what I decided when I was a baby. Among my first words were explaining I was going to be a cartoonist.
Wow.
And I was submitting to newspapers when I was 6 years old. I went to the library. I learned, I got all the books on how to put together a pitch packet. I put together one. I sent it to the local newspaper, and they sent me like this little adorable letter that said, "Yeah, kid, we'll keep your work on file." That was like, you know, their version of a polite blow off, but I didn't know that. I didn't know what a blow off was at that time. So I'm like, man, when Jim Davis dies, I'm in the file. And I just kept sending them new samples every few years. And finally, when I was 16, 10 years later, they're like, "All right, fine, we'll hire you." And I got a job doing a weekly newspaper, and I've just been doing it ever since. And I never stopped. And yeah, I only, we just talked about before, I officially went full-time as an author a few hours ago, and I finished my last day on my day job of working at a library. And now I'm going to make even more.
Yay, congratulations. Can you tell us how working on this graphic novel is different from working on other comics?
Yeah, this one had really changed my career, mostly just because it's kind of the first time anyone you know, has really paid much attention to my work. Like being selected by Junior Library Guild was a huge moment for us, because it's one of those things that growing up in the US and being a nerd obsessed with books, like I knew exactly what that meant as soon as I got the email from Spike about it, and I'd like explain it to Hyun Sook. But yeah, just the attention of it, and like the importance of the story, but also just the experience of being able to work on it with my wife, who, like, comics has always just been this nerdy thing that her husband does. And like me trying to talk to her about it, and she's like, I don't know, it's your thing. But now, having worked on something together, having it be our experience and working on it together was amazing. And one of my favorite things was, you know, when we were writing the book, it would be us having conversations, and I would be the one at the keyboard and then asking her questions. And then the book came out the same day in Korean. So being able to switch gears, and then she was translating, she was the one at the keyboard and then asking me questions about, like, what does this pun mean? This pun doesn't work in Korean. And I'd have to explain that and explain why I made this choice. And so it was fun, like here's what I do, let's change, now you do it. And so I think she kind of understands this nerdy thing that I do more.
Especially the joke.
Yeah.
In joke in America, in joke in Korea is very different. Very different, and I don't know how to fix.
Yeah, you can tell I'm the one that wrote all the jokes, because they're all very very English pun based.
Okay, well, I guess you have. Can you tell us about interviewing your friends from that time and the process of blending everything into the book?
Interviewed my friends.
Yeah, when we traveled around, interviewed everyone.
Traveled my old school, university in Taiwan, and then we met the old members in band book club, and then yeah, so Kyungyeon is one. She was in the character of the Uni, and she now become the counsel
Yeah.
of the our not
Yeah,
our
she's a politician, yeah.
politician now, and then yeah, we the reunion.
Yeah, he had a
Yeah,
little
it's a
reunion.
yeah, and
The one thing I thought was amazing about that is that we were a little, I wasn't sure how people were going to feel about us like taking their experiences so that we're secret and putting them in a book. And that's why all the names have been changed. The name of the city has been changed. And the name of the school has been changed because I'm like, I don't want to upset anyone and, put their laundry out in the world, even though the world has changed and those things are no longer illegal. We're like, they're confessing crimes to us. So I changed all of the names of everyone. And then after the book came out, every single person in single institution has gone on their own press tour to make sure everyone knows that's them. Like she mentioned Young Young, who Uni was based on, is a politician. And she was out doing her, I get Google alerts that she was out doing interviews about her book to let people know,
that's
I'm Uni, that's
amazing.
me. The school, the college that I thought they definitely weren't going to want their name attached to it, but they did this. They invited us out. The president of the school met us and did a photo op, and they did press all over Korea and like every newspaper. The mayor invited us out, mayor of Changwon, where it actually took place. So it's amazing how happy people have been to be involved in it.
That makes me think of, I heard Raina Telgemeier say that she did a book signing at her dentist's office, and the dentist who is depicted in Smile as being this horrible person who just ruined her life for a while as he was working on her teeth, and he did a signing at his office. It's like, wait, no, you're the villain. Can you talk about working with the illustrator and whether there was some back and forth about the depictions and whether it felt true to what your memories were of this experience?
I'll say for Hyungju, we found Hyungju just by searching. I really wanted a Korean artist to illustrate this one because there was so much about the history that I didn't want to be the one to illustrate it. And I found Hyungju's work that he had done a lot of books about college life in Korea, and even though it was from a different era. He's very young. He's still a college student, so he wasn't from the same era, but like he was just starting college when we first met him.
Wow.
And I loved his work. And yeah, I mean, there are a few different things that we had to English is his second language, so some of the things that he didn't fully understand in the script, we had to talk to him. He would call us, and Hyunsuk would kind of talk him through the details of what we were looking for. But I'm amazed by how well he did, like, reading the script in a completely foreign language and figuring it out. I think there was only one part where he drew the wrong type of building, so we just had to go back and like change all the signage on the building and everything. But yeah, how do you feel about, do you feel it's accurate to your experiences, the art?
It's based on my story, but it's plus your imagination and the fiction. So yeah. It's good.
Well, the video that you played before, really put his talent on display, showing the individual panels and the depth in each image. It's an impressive job. Even though I don't know whether the accuracy or not, just looking at it it really came across beautifully. Are comics a big thing in Korea?
Yeah, comics are huge here. Comics have always had a history in Korea of being banned as well. Starting years ago, like especially when even way back to when the Japanese colonial period, like they had kind of banned all comics from Korea. A lot of people lost their jobs, but then just later, a lot of parents saying that like comics are like bad for kids, they're not learning anything from them. And then like even now, like when people do their military service, they're not allowed to bring comic books into the military. But that has also made comics very popular because you tell people you can't read something, they want to. And so there's what I love here, but I really need to learn more Korean because there's something called manhwa cafes. That's
Mhm.
like a giant building just full of like every volume of every manga and every manhwa, and you pay like a couple bucks per hour, and you can just sit and tear through all the volumes. It's like
Oh,
it's
that's
like a
fascinating.
yeah, basically like a library, but it's all the comic section, and it's
Mhm.
like it's just businesses that are all over the city,
Yeah.
and they got comfy chairs you can sit in, and now of course webtoons are the big thing.
Neighbor and down.
Yeah.
to-
Everybody's always
to
go on
make a lot
the
of money.
you go on the bus or the train, and everybody's reading webtoons on their phone. And it's also a big business here, much more in the US, of web comics being adapted into other media. Like there's a web cartoonist here named Gungpoo that has more comics based on his work than J.K. Rowling had, or more movies based on his comics than J.K. Rowling has based on her books, because it's just a huge, huge business here.
And does manhwa mean anything? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that very well, but does that mean anything different from how we use comics in the US, or
Yeah,
is it just a translation?
what always makes me laugh is people calling Korean comics manhwa, when here that's just a word for comics. Like Garfield is
Okay.
manhwa here.
Okay, so
it's
if you
just,
said manhwa comics, that's redundant.
yeah, kind of, yeah.
So in English, it's also really complicated. I feel like the words are not very flexible. Like we have the term graphic novel, and it seems like most comics creators use comics instead of graphic novel. But as the form is going younger to early chapter books and to attract beginning readers, and there's the explosion of graphic nonfiction, it seems like we don't really have the words to describe it. Do you have any other words that you use to describe it, or preferences of which
Yeah,
term?
I always find it funny when people they consider graphic novel to be a pretentious term for comics, and I'm like, that's just a type of comic. Like comics is the same as prose. Like a graphic novel is just a comic that's the length of a novel. um and there's different types of comics, just like there's different types of prose books, and there's lots of different terms you can use to describe the type of thing you're reading based on I also I keep calling this a graphic novel, though technically it's a graphic memoir, because novel doesn't,
Right.
it's all book terms are confusing.
But then you say
Same
graphic
with now,
nonfiction.
like having done YA, trying to write something for adults and telling people I'm making an adult comic, and they're like, I'm like, no, not that kind of adult comic. There's two different ways that term is used in the book industry. It's all
I
confusing.
think that's the same problem as saying graphic nonfiction.
Yeah,
We're just like, no, it just
it's
means
not
images. It doesn't mean
not
anything
graphic
else.
violence, not graphic anything else.
Yeah.
And then you got to get into, if you're making a graphic adult book, then they're never going to believe you that you.
Right. You're both incredibly active online. I feel like I learn something new every time I look at your posts. Can you tell us about your campaign to sign up for your Ding Dang library card?
Yeah, well, first I want to say, Hyunsuk, are you very active on Twitter?
No.
I am Hyunsuk's social media manager, so I thought that question was very funny, because every time I mention or ask her how to respond to something, someone asks her on Twitter, she's like, I have a Twitter. So yeah, like I am very active because I love talking about comics and other people's comics and our comics. But the Ding Dang library card is just we were invited by the American Library Association to take part in the Creators Get Carded campaign and encourage people to get their library card. And just get your Ding Dang library card was the silly thing I typed in a tweet when I was announced, when I retweeted that post, and then libraries all over the world started repeating it. and saying it. And I guess it's a thing now. Them telling people to get their ding dang library card. I don't know. I just reply to things in weird language sometimes.
You are very funny and creative. You made another words,
Oh.
the non-core.
Normcore, yeah.
Yes.
I guess I have a history with that because I working with Spike from Iron Circus a long time ago in a punchline to a comic. I made up the word normcore and then it somehow became a real word and was added to the dictionary.
What?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was shortlisted for word of the year a while back. And I missed that whole middle section where I made the comic, forgot about it. It was shortlisted and people were tagging me in the tweets. I'm like, why do you keep tagging me in tweets about this? And they're like, you invented the word. I'm like, I did? What?
So, okay, so what does it mean?
Normcore is it's this whole fashion movement where it's people who reject like fashion by only wearing like things that have already been accepted by society, just normal t-shirts, jeans, sneakers, just, purposely wearing only the most normal and already accepted things instead of, focusing on fashion. And for me, it was a punchline to a comic I wrote at 4 a.m. And now it's an actual movement that's like, has become a punchline on Parks and Recreation and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And I'm like, all right, I don't know.
Wow, that's amazing.
God, I wrote it.
Do you know the book Frindle
Mm-mm.
by Andrew Clements?
No.
That is I think the kid in the book invents the word Frindle. So you should read that at some point. But that's amazing. That's really amazing. We are so excited to have you here during Banned Book Week here in the US. Do you also have that celebration in Korea?
You have a Banned Book Week in Korea?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. But it's an international thing. We celebrate it here. It's our favorite 7-day holiday.
Can you explain what it means to you to have Banned Book Club available in the National Library of Korea?
Yeah, I discovered that. I was very excited because I recently went on a bike trip and I was searching for places I was going to stop. I rode across the country from Busan to Seoul, and I was like, oh, there's a library. Oh, the National Library is there. I should stop and check it out. And I saw that they had our book. And National Library is a place where they keep like the foundational documents of Korea, like that are thousands of years old. It's like, like the place where they keep the Declaration of Independence, if the Declaration of Independence was, in way before America existed. And then they have our book right next to it. So I was very excited to learn that.
And I saw that you started putting signed drawings into books. Have you ever heard from anybody who found one of your drawings?
Not yet. Yeah, I have a little stack of them that we've both signed. I just kind of keep them around, and whenever I go to a new library, just kind of smuggle one in. And yeah, I haven't heard from anybody yet, but they're out there.
That's amazing.
The readers that someone found that they will be happy.
Hope so.
Oh, I would think so. Can you talk about the responses to Banned Book Club you have had from people in Korea and around the world?
Yeah, how have people reacted to your book?
In Korea, not much, and so that is the part of our history. We went through that the dramatic the history, but is what I remind that is the some years ago we had the candlelight protest during the yeah, candlelight protest. That at that time our president is the daughter of the dictator. So she used her powers for her, not for people, right? So it's we have the stand up and the act, for her impeachment, right?
Mhm.
So we did, and we at that time such many people, so million people is every day, have in the big huge scares, and then they protest, but it's very peacefully and very successfully, and we finally he took take out her position. So yeah, he removed. So it's that the situation remind me of my old days. I hope many people read our book and we got this too.
Yeah, say like in Korea, the reaction has been very different because this is something that's talked about a lot more. There's a lot of movies and a lot of books about this experience. Somewhat that I mentioned earlier at the mayor of Changwon. That's the decree that the mayor of Changwon gave us, thanking us for writing a book about the city's history. But yeah, here it's been more, it's been celebrated as like, thank you for talking more about this part of history. But in America, it's been more of a surprise because this is a part of history a lot of people in America didn't know about. And yeah, like I said, I've been making comics since I was 6 and just kind of like putting them on the internet, and a handful of people would read them. But now all of a sudden, being honored by so many different places that I've known my whole life, and being, Junior Library Guild and the Eisners and the Ringos, and being listed by NPR and American Library Association, got a Freeman Award, all these things just has blown my mind how welcoming the world has been to this. And book being picked up in Spanish and more language to come, hopefully. And yeah, I've been amazed by not just how far our book has gone, but just more people learning about this part of history that they didn't know about.
And for the protest against the most recent president, how long did it take before she was impeached? How long were you protesting?
How long?
long do people protest?
Every weekend, people, weekday they work, and after the weekend they got together, and then.
How long did it last? Like a year?
Not years, many months, or around a year.
Almost a year, right?
Yeah, almost a year.
Yeah, what was amazing to me about that period is how, like, because Korea had this shared history of seeing what it was like when a dictator took over and how hard it was to remove them, that, as you saw in the book, people weren't always supportive of the people doing that work. But once people saw, oh yeah, I guess that was necessary and worked, that now, the daughter of the same dictator was elected president, and because of kind of like this kind of like right-wing backlash a little bit, and so the people are like, well, things are going to be different. And then she started kind of easing into some of the same policies, starting to want to ban books, starting to want to change textbooks to say her father was great, ban the books that are against her father, blacklist all of the artists and filmmakers that are all the people that won Oscars when Parasite won during her period were blacklisted, and they couldn't get any funding. And so as soon as people started seeing that happen, they were like, nope, not doing this again. And everyone came together. So it wasn't just like one weekend. For almost the entire year, every weekend, if you see pictures, you see a sea of people, like helicopter shots of it's just nothing but people. And it became like a festival every weekend. People would bring their picnics, they'd bring their families, and they kept protesting until they said, okay, fine, we'll do a trial. People were like, well, we're still not going to stop protesting. We're going to protest during the trial to make sure you finish it. They impeached her, and then they're like, well, we're going to keep protesting until she's actually out of office because we don't believe you. And like in Korea, it was even a more difficult process to remove a president because there was nothing in the Constitution to say that was a possibility. So like, sure, you voted for it, but like, how does that even work? Who's the new president? There's no procedure. So they had to have the courts then go in and decide, is this a thing we can do? How do we do it? And people are still protesting until they do it. And then the day that she was out of office, they're like, okay, thank you, and go home.
Yeah. The protest is no violent, no one hurt. It's very even no trashy.
Mhm.
So if after protest they pick up trashy, and then even not just the students, it's a family and
Cops joined in.
cops joined in, and even cops is sport, and
Yeah.
it's very
Amazing what committed people can do. So I read in the biography of Band Book Club Hyun Sook that you run a new band book club. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we that's part of, we mentioned interviewing her old band book club members and talking to people who are involved in things. So that the book club we were talking about there isn't so much like, here's a book, let's read it together. It was more talking about people and their experiences, and a lot of that informing the book. And one of the members was a friend of ours named Amy Rose, who grew up in California. And she was as a child, she was a member of a cult who it was just down the road from Heaven's Gate, and during the same period. And we learned about how she got out of the cult by reading banned books. There was a like this secret library she wasn't allowed to go into, and she would sneak in there and read all the books and learn the truth about the world. And we ended up actually working with her to make a new book that's coming out from Iron Circus next year, called Occulted. So it's mostly just like that, about learning other people's stories and talking to people online and getting more experiences like that, helping people get their stories out.
So now it's going to be a memoir series.
Yeah, well, we've got band book club and Occulted, so yeah.
So if you have a great story, reach out. Hyun Sook, you dedicated it to your father. Did he know about the book?
Unfortunately, he has had been sick for a long time. Just to be published our book, before our book was published, he passed away. So when I visited while he was in hospital, I wrote about the book club, about my young days. So yeah, it's you are in the book. Yeah, at the time, so you run the restaurant, and then we talk about that, and it's talk about that all the days, and so he liked that. He was so proud of me, and then when the book will be come out, it's the next year, but it's before the publishes, he passed away. It's very sad, but it's he was very nice, and
I'm sure he was very confused about the process, because me visiting him in the hospital and like asking a million questions about his failing steak restaurant. He's like, why do you want to know about my failing steak restaurant in the 1980s? But like, that, especially his character, I think is so important to the book. And like that failing restaurant, to me, everyone was confused why I wanted to include that, but it's just like this metaphor for trying to do something more and having society tell you, no, you can't do that. One of the funniest moments of talking to her father, it was toward the end, and like the whole family was there, and I was trying to talk to him about how much it meant to me and how much what our book was about. And I was using like the Google Translate, where you say something, and I'm not sure exactly what I was saying. I tried to tell him that thanks to him, our story, Hyun Sook's story has touched people all over the world, or something like that. And and I said it, and as I was turning the phone, I saw what Google was about to translate, and it said, our sex story, and because it said it didn't understand Hyun-suk's. So it said, our sex story involves many people around the world. And I'm like, no. And
Oh.
threw my phone
Okay, one of the
across
dangers of using Google Translate. Oh
No,
dear.
yeah, Hyun-suk's life. Our sex life involves people from all over the world. I'm like, no, don't say that to my father-in-law.
I think that we were talking about it earlier. I don't know that it was, I think it was before we started the webcast about your mother's response to the book. Can you talk about that?
Yeah.
Difference is
Yeah.
that I describe
Mhm.
about that. You made up more,
Mhm. Hmm.
yeah. You made
Oh,
up more, yeah.
did I make your mother
Yeah.
more grumpy than she was in real life?
Not grumpy like in the book.
No,
So
you
I
told me
just-
she was pretty grumpy.
Yeah, it's based on the real story, but it's make more, you made up more, you know.
So how did she
The-
feel?
the-
She finally read the book in Korean, right? How did she feel?
Yeah, she didn't say anything, but yeah, there's my mother in real life, in the mother in the book is different, a little different, you know, because that is the graphic novel, not is you know,
Right.
yeah, in nonfiction. The
Yeah.
story of-
One of my favorite moments showing the book to her is the first time she saw it, there wasn't a Korean version yet. There was only the English version. So she came to her house and she sat there for like an hour flipping through the pages, not knowing what anything said. And then finally she reached this page with the car beeping, and she went, ah, beepa beepa sogogi. She thought it said beef. She thought, she was so proud she understood one of the words, but she thought it was talking about beef.
An
Because
easy
that's
mistake
because of
to
the steak
make.
restaurant.
Right.
I'm like, no, there actually is like 20 pages about the steak restaurant, but that's not one of them.
Right. From previous interviews that I looked at, I understood that you were not expecting to write another book, but I just saw that you are writing another book. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we are working together on a new book for Penguin Workshop. That's kind of another story from Hyun-suk's college life around her band book club, and it's just a kind of based on all of the school trips that Hyun-suk took, and it's based around this idea that fascinates me, something I really wanted to find a way to include in band book club but never could. So one of the restrictions that the Korea had on people was a curfew, where for decades no one could be out after it was midnight, right? Like if you were out after midnight, you would be arrested, and it was only on holidays that you were allowed to be out. But of course, if it on all the Korean holidays, you have family obligations. But there was one day where inexplicably, it was a Western holiday, so there wasn't any family obligations here in Korea. So it was the one night of the year where people could be free, and that was Christmas Eve. And so for generations in Korea, Christmas Eve was known as like the night of debauchery and rule breaking, because
Oh,
you could
wow.
spend everything. And so there's a generation of people that there's a lot of September birthdays because it was the one night, so it's a book kind of about what happens when every part of your life is controlled, but there's only one night of freedom. And so it's kind of a story about that, and we take it from there, and just kind of this little Love Actually style story of different people having different experiences on this trip when they can think about their future and freedom in a way that they haven't been able to before.
That sounds that. And when is that due out?
That comes out in fall 2024.
That it seems really far away right now.
Yeah, comics take a long time.
Comics take a long time, labor intensive.
Mhm.
I think I'm gonna try and share in the chat the picture that you sent when you sent the letter about getting the JLG selection. And I wonder if you could tell us about it, if it actually works here.
Yeah, I just did a little drawing of Hyun-Suk with the thing, because like I said, that meant a lot to me, having grown up as the book kid in the library, reading through the shelves and knowing exactly what a junior library guild selection was, and so it meant a lot to me. And especially what you say on the website about how being a selection usually kind of kicks off things, leading on to other things and finding other success and winning a lot of awards, and that was kind of the first inkling that might be the case. And it definitely has. It has led to so many things for us and so many life-changing opportunities. So yeah, we were very thankful for that. So I did a little drawing and sent it to you to celebrate.
Here, I promised this and I'm unable, it won't paste. I copied it, but it won't paste. I guess it doesn't like images.
Mhm.
So maybe we'll put that in the resources if we can. Well, your letter made me cry, and I'm so glad that for the success of this book. There are plenty of books that we read that take some deliberating, and this was not one of them. We read it and we immediately wanted to offer it. So thank you. It's such an incredible project, and I recommend anyone out there who's listening who hasn't read it, and all your friends and family, you should read it. Do you have a feel for the age of your readership? Oh,
There you go.
nicely done.
Saying
More
"Kansamnida,"
talented than
that's
I am. So what is in the speech bubble? What does that say?
"Kansamnida."
Thank you. 감사합니다.
Yeah, so the age of the group, we just consider this YA, but I write all my books with myself as the target audience, and then hope that everyone else enjoys it. I've talked to, like I said, I worked at a library. I was teaching very young elementary schoolers, and a lot of them have been reading it. Hyun-Suk has a big fan at the Gijang Library, who I think she was like 10 or 11, who had the Korean copy and would come in every day with the same copy and be like, I've read it 99 times now. I've read it 100 times now. I'm up to 101. And one day we were in class and I got Hyun-Suk on Zoom and put her on the big screen, had her talk to her, and she about fainted and cried. So, and a lot of our readers are adults. So I guess, there's a little bit of, very historical violence in the book that parents should make sure kids are ready for. But I hope that anyone can get something out of the book.
So I don't know that we have any questions, but I want to just say thank you. Thanks for answering all of my questions. Thank you for getting up at 3:30 in the morning to do this. And thank you most of all for the honor of letting us share this with our library customers all over the country. So it's a fantastic book.
We are very honored.
Thank you for having us.
Okay. And other people are saying thank you too. So have a wonderful day, and everybody read the book.
Yep, and I would say get your Ding Dang library card, but I know who we're talking to.
Make sure that other people get their Ding Dang library
here.
cards. Okay, thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.